metal, it moves metal in all directions. When you hit it, you're forcing down, and it's telling the hot metal you want it to spread out in all directions. The flat side we use for what's called planishing, to smooth it out and take out some of the hammer parts. This one is a crossbeam hammer. This is the crossbeam. And then this head has got a slight curvature to it. So this head is intended to help move the material around in all directions. The crossbeam is intended to move it in only two directions. What we're doing is think about pushing your hand into Play-Doh and it wants to move away from where your hand is. Put your fist in, it makes a bigger run. If you just put your edge in, it just moves in two directions. So that's the idea behind this. The reason why most crossbeam hammers look like that, so you can see the difference between the two. And the reason for that is when I'm holding material like this, if I want to move it this way, and I'm using this crossbeam, I actually have to put myself in a bad position. So I have to be holding the material here and using the hammer here. If I'm using this kind of a crossbeam, I can have the material there, and as you can see, I'm in more of a comfortable position, so I can continue to work.
That makes sense.
So that's the reason behind that type of a crossbeam. So I'm going to drop these back in so they get a little bit more moisture. Next thing we'll talk about the tongs. They each have specific functions, and then some can be used for general type. The three that I'm going to show you right now are most useful for you, and these are going to give you anything that you're going to do tonight. So we have a standard tong, and if you look, it's just got straight jaws, but when you look inside, we've got this gouged out section, and if you look at the profile of it, it is set square, and the reason for that is it can hold either square or round material. It also has this side section for the same intent. You can use that to hold on to things. Now tongs themselves the parts are named after the equine industry, so these are reins. These are the jaws with a bit, and that's where it comes from. Because when when you were first doing a lot of heavy blacksmithing, horseshoeing, that was where it came from. So the next one, this one is often called an alligator or a dragon tong. Very similar to this one. When you look at it, it's got that same channel in it. This one has these teeth here, kind of like an alligator's jaw. Very similar from the function. It can grab this way, but you can also grab larger round stock and things like that to make turns. This will also hold material that perhaps has a small head to it, rivet, things like that. These are bolt tongs. The reason it has that same channel, the same size. When you look at this open area, that's intended to be able to hold material that has a large head on it. So while you're working, making bolts, anything like that. These would be the ones that would get used most often in what we'll be doing tonight. I'm going to have you make a hook.
Yay!
The reason for that is a hook requires all of the basic skills and techniques that you have to use for anything else. So it's the perfect starting piece to learn. So we'll go into some of the other stuff here. Just so that you can see. A lot of different kinds of tongs that have special purposes. So these are just regular flat jaw tongs. They're designed so that they can capture materials as needed. This particular pair of tongs is probably 150 years old. This came from Grandpa's Ranch, and this was used by the farrier for everything they needed. This is a kind of a specialty tong. As you can see, it's got this squared off section. It's designed to hold specific width materials. Another one that's very popular with modern farriers because it doesn't let the material go. This is the same kind, but when you look at them, there's a difference.
Yeah.
So this one is set up for thicker materials. This one is set up for thinner materials. And the reason is, if I was holding a 1/2 inch piece of material with that one, it has to be that open on the hand that one I can get a better grip at the same size. So here, I'm not having to struggle to try and hold on to close the same amount of force on it. So there's a lot of old tongs here. So
Ah, look at that monster.
Go ahead and hold on to that.
Yeah, feel how heavy that one is.
And this is another set of bolt tongs, like the smaller ones that I showed you. So that's what was being used 150 years ago at Grandpa's Ranch to do work.
Yeah.
The nice thing about it is they go back and forth into the heat and they keep coming back. And if something happens, if I was to break this off, I can reform this into something different, make another new pair of tongs out of it. So half the fun, getting there is half the fun, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So take a look at the anvil. So the anvil, you have 3 primary faces.
Okay.
This is the hardened face that you do most of your work on. And if you look down here, you can actually see a parting line. This top section is about maybe a ½ inch of material. That's a hardened piece of steel that was then forge welded to the cast steel base. So when they made this, they would have poured this base, and then they would have set this on it, turned it over and put it into a heavy furnace so that the two would get hot enough, and then they would have driven this down so that the two would forge weld to each other. So this is the hardened surface. This is just the cast steel. This is called the step. And this is good for making small, if I need to make small steps, if I need to drop something. But this is also an area that I can use to cut material. If I'm going to use a hard, or if I'm going to use a hot cut, which would be a chisel for cutting hot material, I want to use it here because it's not going to destroy the edge, the cutting edge of the chisel, like it would going against this hardened piece of steel.
Oh, that's a different
Right,
material. Okay.
because this is hardened, this is not. This is the horn, and the horn is used for shaping and moving material. So think of this section here like that cross peen. So if you wanted to move material quickly, you can actually lay your material down here, and as you're hammering, you're using this as a peen, a cross peen, to tell the material, I want you to move out this direction.
Gotcha. Okay.
This is also what you would use, the farrier would use it to shape the horseshoes. It's got that nice curve, and the reason why it's got that tapered curve is so I can make whatever size I need.
Makes sense. I'm sure a lot of this is going to click more too.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Just use it. So you have 2
It was
holes
Chinese when he explained it to me first, and then halfway through it, it's like, I can do this.
Like,
So,
I think I know what some of these words are.
yeah, yeah. No, you'll be fine.
here. So this is called the hardy hole. This is the square hole.
Okay.
And this is where we put tools. So these are called hardy tools. So they just drop in, and you can work with them as you need to.
So I used that one to make the hook when I was here last week. And unfortunately, the way the camera was, you can only see us working on it. You can't really see what happens.
This is called a bending fork. And the idea is that I can take a straight piece of material when it's hot, I can put it in here, and then pull it around, and it will make a tight bend.
Yeah.
And so the reason I have multiples of them, so that's for smaller material, but it also lets me make a tighter bend if I wanted to. This can go for larger material, make a larger bend. Each of these tools have been made for a specific purpose to be able to do different work. This is called the pritchel. And this is basically, this gives you the opportunity to drive holes in material. So if I take a hot piece of flat stock and I wanted to cut a hole in it, I would use a drift punch, and I could start drifting it. And the nice thing about it, so I've got this piece of material. I know it's supported all the way around wherever I want to drive the hole. If I try to do it here, it's not supported enough, and it's just going to kind of dish and make a mess as I drive out that point. So each of the bits has, each portion has a useful purpose. The edges we usually stay away from, except when we're trying to make a sharp bend. tip and bend it at a nice 90-degree angle, I would lay it over the edge and use that. Otherwise, the greatest amount of work, we try and stay right here. So as you're hammering, you want to be hammering in the middle of the anvil, and you move the material. Most folks are used to working, you're using a hammer, you move the hammer to whatever you're trying to hit. In this case, you move whatever you're trying to hit to where the hammer is.
Gotcha.
And that becomes the only initial disconnect until all of a sudden, oh, this makes perfect sense.
This is weird at first. Oh no, it's fine.
So I'm going to grab you a piece of stock.
How's your head?
It's mostly fine.
Mostly fine? Still hurts a little? She's not feeling 100%. She just took some.
Alright, so this is the stock that you're going to use. And you're going to make something that resembles this, but it's whatever your design is. It's not what my design. I made this one. Your dad made a different one.
Mm-hmm.
I've made all kinds of different hooks, and other people have made hooks here. So this is intended really as nothing more than to show you the different things that you're going to do. So if you look, this is basically a 1/2-inch stock. And what I did was I hammered it down to get it to essentially a 1/4 inch. And then what I did was I drew it out. And so the techniques to doing each of these things is what you would use for any other process that you're going to do. So I'll tell you about it, but it's not going to click until you get the hot metal, and then you'll start to feel things, and all of a sudden everything comes together.
It was weird. It was weird, but it's cool weird.
So basically, in this case, to make this section, you're hammering on one side and then turning it over and hammering the other side. So you're always working on the opposite sides of each other. And you try to hammer as much equally on each side for this kind of an effort. To then do what's called drawing out. Then, for this section here, it's hammering it out on this side and this side, and then 1/4 turn hammered on this side and all the way over and hammered on this side. So essentially, whatever you do to one side, you want to do to the other side. But when you're drawing it out, you're going to work all 4 sides. So you're going to go top, bottom, and then top, bottom. And like I said, it'll make more sense as you're doing it.
Yeah.
But this is just to give you an idea. Then, as I worked to draw it down to make this style, I made it thinner and thinner and thinner, and smaller, so that I could make. Look, there's a little curly Q on the end.
Yeah.
And that it looks pretty, but that's a secondary reason. The primary reason is if that wasn't there, you would cut your hand or anything you tried to hang on your hook. So that is highly useful, but it also it's a nice flourish, and everybody goes, "Oh, that's so cool!" It's, oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's safety.
So that is all of this in a nutshell.
And when
If
you
you have any questions for me now, you'll have plenty of questions. You can ask any questions.
Probably once.
yes, you will.
So,
Oh, and she asked me in the car about how long is it going to take to make a hook, and I told her under an hour.
yeah,
I was just curious about
No, it's a very awesome question because I didn't even ask him until he told me last time, because it's not I was so focused on making metal. I was like, oh yeah, how long does that take? I don't.
Yeah, I was just curious about it.
and I'm going to show you something that I showed your dad afterwards, only because it comes up. It comes up all the
It does.
time. But this, consider it your second hand, your third hand, however you want to do it, an extension. Because when this is hot, if I hold it with the hammer, see, I can still kind of move material around here.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to turn it and grab it from the other side, I can hold it there, and then I can grab it with the tongs. And with the tongs, remember that your channel is slightly off. So it's not a perfect 45 degree.
Yeah.
So basically what you're doing is, as you're working, this should put your hand in a reasonably comfortable position to work this flat side, and then you can rotate to work this flat side.
And he's,
So it makes it a little bit easier as you're moving material.
I think one of the important things you said in the beginning is don't try to hit it with all the might in your body every single time you hit it. Just hit it as hard as you think you need to hit it. And that didn't make any sense until I started smacking it. Oh, okay.
Some of the finest farriers in the world are women.
Yeah.
And they do not, and we're talking about 5 foot tall, maybe 100 pounds soaking wet in a wool sweater. Women.
Yeah.
And they get down there and they just go for broke. But they're not hitting, they're not,
yeah, there's none of that.
From how you've explained it, it does seem kind of more of a like accuracy and
Finesse.
really more than anything else, it's taking your time.
Yeah.
Now the other thing I want to show you is that I'm going to lift this hammer up once.
Okay.
That's the rebound. I'm not lifting that hammer in. I'm letting the rebound do it, and I'm just telling it where I'd like it to be. So the anvil itself will help you to do the work that you're working. So allow that to happen. The other thing is your posture. You want to try and keep your arm in, and really you're only working from the elbow. And you're kind of letting your wrist go through. You're not looking to get a locked out wrist or anything else. You really want to give it an opportunity to move. And another thing is try and keep your tongue in. It also lets you use your body against the tongue, so if you want to change your hand position, it makes it a little bit easier.
So keep
Elbows in.
well, yeah, elbows in, but like keep that a little bit more locked. And then,
You don't need to worry about keeping it locked, but it just, the reason why, well, go ahead and take those in your tongue.
Yeah, you'll feel it. You will feel it.
So with the reins out a little bit, you can actually post in yourself a little bit, and then that makes it a little easier for you to rotate your hand.
Okay,
And it gives a
yeah.
little bit of drag as you're moving.
yeah.
So that makes it a little
simpler.
simpler. Yeah,
Okay.
makes it a little easier, a little simpler as you're working.
We try to keep this one a little more stable. But
Yeah,
keep
and
this one-
that becomes the idea. This hand gets to move more fluid.
Okay.
This hand is to control it. So you're
Gotcha.
keeping
Okay.
this in
Yeah,
place.
that's. I didn't have
And
that
just
way.
remember to keep moving the material rather than moving the hammer. And it'll click as you go along.
Makes sense.
The big
I like
thing
this
of
hammer.
feel is how easy it is to move the material.
Oh,
And
yeah.
the first time you strike hot material, you're gonna know what it's doing. I can't try and describe it to you, but until you feel it, then it's all of a sudden it's that aha moment.
It's better that he does it this way. The same thing happened with me last week. It's cool. You're going to like it.
No, I trust
So
what you're saying. Yeah,
this
makes
takes
sense.
a bit of time to get in
Okay.
to heat, but I want you to come over and take a look. So stand on that side and look this way. You see this here? This is what's referred to as the dragon's breath. So that's flame coming out. So that's something I want you to just be aware of, conscious of that is there as you're
Oh,
working.
yeah.
So as you're moving in and out, you're actually going to open the door each time you pull out your material and put it back in again. So that's why you have the glove on the left hand. You can actually reach over and do that. The other thing, to show you something with the tongs, the reason I built these hooks this way is where you see the rivet, I can catch it, carry it up, and catch it, and carry it down.
Look at it in there. It's like a yellow-white, sorry.
So what we're trying to do is we want to get it closer to a yellow orange than just an orange. That means we've got plenty of heat in the material. The other thing is it's going to take about 3 or 4 good heats to heat it all the way down to the center. Right now we've got good heat on the outside. We can start working it as it is now. There's nothing wrong with that. This gets you an opportunity to feel it. But then the next thing is, as you keep putting it back into the fire, we get more heat into the center. You'll notice that it will move easier and easier each time because it's retaining the heat. Though it'll look different outside,
Right.
it's retaining the heat. It's heating better, more effective. So, open this Okay, if you come around this way, once you take a look now, remember how these are slightly off. They're not this way, they're slightly that way. So when you reach in, I try to keep the material just hanging off the end of that block, and then you're going to reach in, grab it, and pull it out. Okay? So take your time.
I don't know which one you want her to start with.
Oh,
It's up to her, really. Yeah, 2 hands at first. The heat is fantastic, isn't it?
so now,
Oh, feel like a Jedi yet?
so now what you're going to do is you're going to hold the reins with your left hand.
Right.
And what we're going to do is I want this to get a little bit better, so I'm going to hold it down and readjust your tongs so that you're holding on, and you'll feel it fall into that groove as soon as you get hold of it. There you go. So now, here's your hammer.
All right.
And all you're going to do is just go ahead and put the material about there because you want to strike right here.
At the end right
Yeah,
here?
yeah, just go ahead and strike that.
Now it's done.
There you go. Now you're in there.
Yeah.
It's like, you can tell it's like it's a
Yep.
dollar
But what does it feel like when you hit it?
solid.
You feel the material moving because if you look,
I can feel it
you've
moving
got a
in there.
movement.
Yeah.
Well, you've actually got movement here where it's starting to slide a little bit. So we're starting to see some movement in the metal.
I described it as hitting warm beef jerky. Really old warm beef jerky.
Almost like moving Play-Doh.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can feel it kind of give a little bit.
Yeah.
it's a cool feeling.
Yeah.
And when it starts to get more difficult, when you notice it becoming a little harder to move, that's when we put it back
Back
in the fire,
in there.
Let the heat get back into it.
Get down with your bad self. You're doing good.
There is no right or wrong way to do this at this point.
Right.
You're simply learning how to do it. You're learning how to move the hammer and to get the feel for yourself.
Here, back off on the hammer a little bit so you get more.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So wherever
Like
you
baseball.
feel comfortable with. Now you see how it looks dark again?
Yeah.
I want you to take it over here and hold it down here. In the dark. Still red in there.
Still red hot.
So now
Don't put your tongue on
Go
it.
ahead and put that back into the fire so we get a little more heat.
Perfect.
I'm going to run inside, grab my cigar, and go back.
So just grab with the right hand. Oh, okay, or do that.
Yeah. I'm worried about dropping
If you want to try, you can stick it through the hole. Perfect.
it. Okay.
And then it'll slowly turn colors. So far, so good?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I have really hitting things with my camera though.
Don't worry about it. Again, it's like he said, it's you're the teacher in this classroom. Even though he's telling you what to do, you're the one that's going to decide the end results of the hook.
Yeah.
And I have to say that when he started me exactly like you did, and I was like, I can't do this. This isn't going to turn out right. And it wasn't until after about the 4th or 5th time I took it out of the thing and I was hammering on it, I'm like, this is starting to actually flatten.
It seems like it's very much one of those like trust the process kind of
Yes.
things.
Oh my God, yes. That's perfect. But it's neat because at some point your gut takes over and then you know what you're going to make. I was impressed with that. Because at first it's like, I don't know. Wait a minute. If I do this and do that, and I want to do this. So what I decided was from the beginning when I figured out, hey, I can do this, is I was going to make a hook to hang my leather apron in the computer room or out on the patio.
Yeah.
Because I'm not really using it, even though, you know. And then he was talking about this hammer. This is the one that I was using most. But it's got a rounded side and a flat side, or a flat side and a rounded side on it. And that's for, like, hammering flat and pushing it out in a thing.
Yeah, here's my number.
Oh, okay, good. Well, yeah, I mean, I know, but I was.
Yeah.
That's the one I used. Yeah. Oh, it's getting there. It's getting there. Yeah, if you want me to film with your phone, you probably have more power than I do.
I have a ton of power, but I have a better camera.
Yes, you do.